What's going on, guys? I'm back with another video. Today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of us are pretty divided on, but I want to address the topic and give my opinion. And that is going to be reparations for the black community because of slavery. So, before I get into it, I want to start with a little bit of a backstory on slavery. Slavery in the United States started in 1619 when the first enslaved Africans arrived in Virginia. They were captured by slave traders in the African kingdom of, and please, if you know how to say it right, and I'm saying it wrong, please tell me, but I believe it's the African kingdom of Ndongo. Their arrival in Virginia triggered a nearly 2.5 century long horror show right here in the United States. So, from 1619, at the time when the first slaves arrived, to 1865, that's 246 years that people were legally enslaved. And then, after fighting almost a whole other century, black people were finally offered some actual federal protection when Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act on July 2nd, 1964. So, from 1619 to 1964, that is 345 years that black people had no legal protection in this country. And I'm sure we can all agree that the discrimination and even segregation, the internal biases, and the horror show continued after the Civil Rights Act. So 345 years legally, but that doesn't mean that it stopped even today. So now that we're all on the same page about a very small portion of what black people have been through, I want to tell you my point of view on the black community being given reparations for slavery. And my answer is yes, I think they should be given reparations. And if you'll give me just a couple minutes of your time, I'm going to tell you why they should. Now, it might seem like I'm trailing off a little bit, but I promise it all comes back together in my reasoning on why they should. If you don't know what happens, I want you to think about this for a second. What happens when somebody gets wrongfully convicted in the United States of America? Oftentimes, they'll serve X number of years, and then they get out and they're offered reparations for the time that they wrongfully served. And I have a few cases that I want to look at with you real quick. So I've got a few cases that I want to look at. I'll tell you the names and how much they served and how much they were paid. So Jerry Miller served 20 years in prison after he was wrongfully convicted, and he was offered $6.3 million. Randy Steidle was offered $6 million after being sentenced to death for a double murder. Amongst those names, there are several others: Leroy Orange, Michael Tillman, Stephen Buckley, Paul Terry. They were all offered millions of dollars when they wrongfully were convicted, and they got out. Henry McCollum and Leon Brown. They were both exonerated after DNA evidence was found in 2014. They were incarcerated for more than 30 years. They received $31 million in damages each. $1 million for each year in prison and $13 million in punitive damages. Let's talk about that for a second. So I want to ask you a simple question. If you disagree with me, obviously. Why is it okay and appropriate to offer reparations to these people that are wrongfully convicted and wrongfully imprisoned? But it's not okay to offer reparations to an entire race that we wrongfully imprisoned for over 246 years. Well, because the black people today weren't slaves, so why should I pay for people who weren't slaves? Well, I would say that you're right. The black people today were not slaves, but their ancestors were. And what I am focused on is the fact that the repercussions of slavery and the damages of slavery still run very deep in our society today. There have been multiple studies done that show that the aftermath of slavery on the black community still runs very prevalent right now, today, as we speak. Well, you see, I didn't own slaves, so why should it matter to me if they get reparations? Well, maybe I'm stupid in thinking that you should care about the wrongdoings against fellow human beings enough to help to want to repair those. But also, to respond to that, let me hold your hand when I say this. You didn't wrongfully convict those criminals either, but your taxpayer dollars go to their reparations, and I don't see you crying about that. Now, a lot of people would argue that slavery is long gone and that it's a thing of the past, and that may be the case for people that look like me. But you can't ignore that the repercussions and the consequences of slavery still run very deep in our society today. Now, other people would argue that now black people have equality, so why are we even worried about this? But to me, my concern is not so much the equality, because now legally they have it, but it's the equity. To me, now you can't have equality without having equity first. Now, equality is important. It says that we're all equal and that we all have the same opportunities, but to me, equity is realizing that we don't. It's being fair and impartial. And there's nothing fair about telling somebody that they are equal to you when they are suffering consequences that you aren't, when they are suffering repercussions of something that you are not. That is not equality. I don't know if you remember it, but a while back there was a video circulating on social media. It was a coach or a teacher, I'm not really sure, but he had all of these high school kids lined up on a field, and they all started at one end zone line. And then he asked a series of questions like, if you have both of your parents in your household, please step forward. If you have never had to worry about where your next meal was going to come from, please step forward. If you didn't have to be mommy or daddy to your younger siblings, please step forward. And at the end of his questions, a lot of people were left still maybe one step off that goal line, but then a lot of people were 10 steps ahead. Now, at the end of all of the statements, he had them race to the finish line, right? And a lot of people obviously started out with a 10, 15 step head lead. But a lot of the people, surprisingly, that were left on the goal line finished before the people that had all of these advantages over them. Now, in this example, the people that are farther up ahead, that are 5, 10, 15 steps ahead, represent white people to me. We are given advantages, whether we see them or not, we are. Whether we see them as advantages or not, they are. And the people that are left farther back, maybe on the goal line, maybe 1 or 2 steps off the goal line, those people represent black people to me. So now, by society's definition of equality in that scenario would be giving everybody the same racing shoes and giving everybody the opportunity to run in that race. But often what we leave out is the equity. The equity would be saying, okay, no matter your advantages, everybody go back to the goal line. Or everybody that's on the goal line, come up here, putting everybody truly at a level starting point regardless of their advantages and disadvantages. So, do I think that every black person in America should be given $1 million for reparations? No, because we can't afford it, right? But I do think they need to be given equity. And an example of that I can try to use would be, If I'm the top expert in my field, whatever you want to pick, geology, we'll say geology. I'm not, but for hypothetical scenarios here, if I'm the top expert in the field of geology and I'm going up for a job, but there's a black woman who is second in the field of geology. If we both apply for that job, I think that the black woman should get the job, because if she were offered true equity with 100% equality, then I know, given all the circumstances and all the challenges in her life because of slavery, I know that she would be first. She would be first in that field, because my life has not been impacted at all, not even in the slightest, by slavery, except for the sadness that I feel, you know. But to think that the repercussions don't run deep today is insane. And what I really want to push on people that look like me is, just because you don't see the repercussions of slavery doesn't mean that they're not there. Just because you don't see the consequences of what maybe we didn't do, that doesn't mean that somebody isn't suffering those consequences. So, really, I want you guys to tell me what you think in the comments. I want you to tell me what you think. Should black people be offered reparations? And if so, how? Thank you guys for watching another one of my videos. Please stick around for the next one. Like, subscribe, do your thing, and I'll see you in the next one.